This video is now in session, and we're going to do a hypothetical election today. So this is the 2024 map that we are using with the changed electoral votes per state. Actually, I think that California should have lost an electoral vote, and New York should have gained one, so I'm going to put that back. But it wouldn't affect the election in any way, because both of them are safe states for Democrats. That said, this is a situation where Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee and Ron DeSantis is the Republican nominee, which isn't totally out of the question. So for Kamala Harris, she would be able to get the nomination if Joe Biden chooses not to run for re-election, and then from there endorses Kamala Harris to be the successor of his presidency. For Ron DeSantis, this would be a situation where Donald Trump does not run for re-election and instead endorses Ron DeSantis, or if Ron DeSantis is able to be the anti-Trump vote and beat Donald Trump. Now, I'm going to assume that the former has happened, because if the latter has happened, then this presidential map would change. But yeah, let's go with that situation. So, as you can see, these are all the safe states. But I do have two more safe states to add for both Democrats and Republicans, one each. So for Democrats, I would give a safe state to Colorado, and the reason why is because Colorado has gotten more Democratic over the year. So from 2012 5.4% to 4.9, and then 4.9 to 13.5, and it's really just 1.5 percentage points away from being a safe characterization, which would be 15%. So Colorado, I think, would be able to shift over. For Republicans, Kansas would be able to shift over because 2020 and Kansas was not a fluke for Democrats, but it was a very abnormal year for Democrats in Kansas. A lot of things went right for Democrats in Kansas and for the past 2 years to lower the margins. So in 2018, Laura Kelly, currently the governor of Kansas, was able to win against Chris Kobach, and Laura Kelly is a Democrat. And then, yes, and she's been kind of popular with her state. And you also have to realize that in 2020, there was contentious, a Senate seat in contention between Roger Marshall, the Republican, and Barbara Boyer, the Democrat. Now, Roger Marshall did win by pretty big margins, but it was less than 15 percentage points, and that would have likely carried over to the presidential race in 2020. So, yeah, that was just a very good year for Democrats. For 2024, I expect Kansas to go back to safe, and then I expect Montana and Indiana to stay as safe. So those are all the safe characterizations, and now let's move on to likely, starting with the Republicans. So Iowa, I would give it for Republicans likely, and then Ohio, South Carolina, and Alaska. So it's pretty much just keeping the status quo from 2020. Iowa, I don't think it would change, nor would Ohio, because Ron DeSantis is like Donald Trump in his policies, but he doesn't have the rhetoric that Donald Trump has, or the he doesn't have the rhetoric or the bombastic tweets on his Twitter account. So he would appeal, I guess, even more to the Rust Belt voters. So those are the characterizations that I have for Republicans in terms of likely. For Democrats, they are losing likely states, but they are gaining one state from lean to likely. So I'll explain that when I shade everything in. So that would be New Mexico, Virginia, and as well as Maine at large, and as well as Nevada. So the reason why I say likely for these states and not for others is for New Mexico and Virginia, they have been moving more Democratic, but the thing is, it's most likely not going to be fast enough for both of them to become safe in 2024. You can see Clinton 8.2%, and then Obama 10.1. Okay, 8.2 to 10.8. So that's a pretty big jump, but not a pretty big jump, but even with that jump, if that was reflected between 2020 and 2024, that wouldn't give Kamala Harris a safe characterization of 15%. Here for Clinton, it went from 5.3 to 10.1 for Biden. I don't expect that big of a jump to happen in 2024 just because Clinton was not a likable candidate compared to Joe Biden, who was a likable candidate in Virginia. For Nevada, I'm adding Nevada because Kamala Harris, her strength is in the Sun Belt, and she does well with Sun Belt voters. Well, not all Sun Belt voters, but some Sun Belt voters, and as well as those people of color and Black Americans. So for Nevada, I think she would be able to get out the Latino vote enough so that she would be able to give the state to her by a likely characterization, and a likely characterization is above 5%. So that's Nevada. Now there are states that are removed from the likely characterizations, that being Nebraska's 2nd District, Minnesota, and as well as New Hampshire. The reason why all 3 of those places will not be likely, in my opinion, is because Kamala Harris, while she does cater to the Sun Belt voters, she does not cater to the Rust Belt voters, and she is not the type of candidate that would be liked by white blue collar workers in the Rust Belt area. If we looked at the 2020 election, Joe Biden primarily campaigned in the Rust Belt, while Kamala Harris mainly campaigned in the Sun Belt through Nevada, Arizona, and Texas. As you can recognize from that statement, she is not really gonna do as well in the Rust Belt as Joe Biden. So those are the likely characterizations. Now on to the lean characterizations. For Republicans, I would give Texas and as well as Florida. Also Maine 2nd District. So Maine 2nd District would be a carryover vote from the Trump from the Trump base in 2020. And then for Texas and Florida, he's popular in Florida. He's the governor of Florida. And he has a net approval rating of 17%. Meanwhile, I expect Greg Abbott to also win in 2022 and then campaign for Ron DeSantis in 2024. And that would be a pretty formidable combination because Texas and Florida combined together is 70. They make 72 electoral votes. So that's a big chunk for Republicans. Democrats did say they were going to win in Texas in 2024, but if it's against Ron DeSantis, then I'm not sure. If it was against Donald Trump, then it would have been a lot more plausible. But for Ron DeSantis, I guess we can expect a little bit of reversal to happen we can expect a little bit of reversal to happen in the Sun Belt, where some voters go back to being Republicans because of Donald Trump, and then at the same time, we see that counteracted by Democrats moving from California and other states over to the Sun Belt states. So those are lean characterizations for Republicans. For Democrats, it would be Arizona, Georgia, and Minnesota. So those 3 I would give it for Democrats, because Minnesota is still a Democratic state, even though it is moving more for Republicans. And then for Georgia, Kamala Harris and Stacey Abrams are most likely going to be able to get out the black vote again in 2024. And then Arizona, I would say, would go for Democrats, because the Republican Party in Arizona has been has been taking blunder after blunder in terms of their actions, and I don't expect them to be able to win in 2024. I also forgot a characterization for Republicans. Nebraska's 2nd District would most likely go back to Republicans in a lean fashion, because Joe Biden was able to win Nebraska using the suburban voters, and as well as I guess criticizing Trump of his rhetoric, and as a result, the Omaha area voters flipped from Republicans to Democrats. That said, I expect them to flip back to Republicans, because Ron DeSantis doesn't have that kind of rhetoric that Donald Trump does. So now we have a total of 5 states. These are going to be the most competitive states, in my opinion, if it would be between Kamala Harris and Ron DeSantis. So let's start with the tilt characterizations for Republicans. I think Wisconsin and Pennsylvania would flip for Republicans, and as well as New Hampshire. Meanwhile, for Democrats, I think they would just about be able to retain Michigan and then flip North Carolina. So as you can see, 284 electoral votes for Democrats, 254 for Republicans. But let me explain why I got this kind of characterization. So for the Rust Belt, Ron DeSantis again would cater more for the Rust Belt and as well as Florida. So I think he would be able to flip Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. And then for Kamala Harris, I think she would be able to keep Michigan because she could try to get as many Black Americans to vote as possible. And then there are enough Black voters in Michigan and the Detroit area in order for her to win against Ron DeSantis. But for Milwaukee, there aren't enough Democratic voters to counteract the white working class voters that would most likely flip back from Joe Biden to Ron DeSantis. And the same thing applies in Pennsylvania, where even though there could be a lot of voters from Philadelphia and the suburban counties, and as well as Pittsburgh, that will most likely not be able to go against the rest of Pennsylvania. This would be a very close state though, and Kamala Harris could definitely be able to flip Pennsylvania from Republicans to Democrats if she was able to get enough suburban voters from the Philadelphia area. For New Hampshire, this state hasn't flipped to Republicans since I believe the 2000 election. Yeah, since the 2000 election, it has been Democratic, but I expected to flip back for Republicans because, again, it's not a Trump candidate, not that type of rhetoric. And then you also have to realize that Chris Sununu is in New Hampshire right now, and he's the governor of New Hampshire. He's very popular with his constituents at 47 percentage points. So in 2024, Ron DeSantis, not a Trump-like character, Chris Sununu could campaign for him, and he would definitely be able to win in New Hampshire. For North Carolina, this will be most likely the contentious state if Kamala Harris would go against Ron DeSantis because it's a game of turnout in North Carolina. Are there enough rural Republican voters to counteract the Black vote that Kamala Harris will definitely bring out, and as well as the young vote, where you have millennials and Gen Zers in the Research Triangle, Mecklenburg County, and as well as the Greensboro area to counteract the Republican rural area. That said, if Republicans were able to win in North Carolina, they would just about be able to win in the tightest race we've seen yet. So that is this map. That is the 2024 map. If Kamala Harris were to go against Ron DeSantis, this is not a prediction. It's way too early to predict the specific states. And it's not, I guess not an update or a forecast either. So this is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. This video is now adjourned, and I'll see you in the next one.